want to turn now to CBS News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Lara Logan, who joins us from Washington. Lara, as we look at the connection, and we talked a little bit, David Martin touched on the commitment from Pakistan to the U.S. in the fight against terror, what the Pakistani government actually knew. What's happening this morning in terms of that relationship?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Erica, because that relationship has been at its lowest point for the past 6 weeks and few months. It's been getting worse and worse as the Pakistanis have been trying to leverage whatever they can against the U.S., and the U.S. has been in an increasingly apparently weak position. And where it stands now is the Pakistanis are looking extremely vulnerable because they have to explain how Osama bin Laden was living right in the middle of one of their main cities. Not only was this a sophisticated, congested city, but the most significant thing to note about it is that it was this neighborhood was home to Pakistani military officers, retired officers. The city itself also hosts the Pakistani Military Academy, which is the main training facility. Former President Pervez Musharraf went through that academy. The current chief of the army in Pakistan, General Ashraf Ghani, was in the area just 4 days ago addressing cadets. There is no doubt. I have spoken to officials from the special operations side to counterterrorism. Everybody that you can talk to says there's no way the Pakistanis didn't know about this. And that's the question they're going to have to answer because, until recently, the Pakistanis were even denying that Osama bin Laden was on their soil. And that appears now to have been a lie.
It's going to be interesting when we hear more about that. But this is such a tenuous relationship, especially in Pakistan, because as I understand it, and I throw to you this because this is your expertise, Lara, but there's also been, it's been a little tough on their end because they want the support of the United States in some respects, but then at the same time, the close relationship with the U.S. and Pakistan does not always sit well with people at home.
No, the close relationship with the U.S. doesn't sit well at all. In fact, right across Pakistan, there is a lot of animosity towards the United States. But what's important to note here, Eric, is that the Pakistanis have been very willing to help the U.S. when it comes to organizations like Al-Qaeda, organizations like the Pakistani Taliban that threaten their existence. There is a whole host of other organizations like the Haqqani Network that are responsible for the fighting in eastern Afghanistan, like the Afghan Taliban, Mullah Omar, the leader of the Taliban, who gave refuge to Osama bin Laden and gave him the space to plan 9/11 from his soil. And also Lashkar-e-Taiba, the militant organization that was really created by the Pakistanis as a foil to the threat they perceive from India. And the Pakistanis have protected those militant groups. They're very selective about who they go after. The Pakistani government has issued a statement this morning, making a point of how many Pakistani civilians, some 30,000 they say, that have been killed by acts of terrorism on their soil, and some 5,000 Pakistani security forces. But what the Pakistanis are never honest about is that they protect militants who are responsible for the deaths of Americans, American civilians, American soldiers. I mean, American soldiers on the ground in Afghanistan have really, if you can imagine this, Erica, they've been handcuffed being sent into battle because all they can do is kill Osama bin Laden's foot soldiers. They could never get at the leadership itself because they were across the border in Pakistan. And Pakistan has protected the high command of the Taliban and really America's enemies. And, the Pakistanis have never been, they've never been made to answer for this. They've been allowed always to put Pakistani concerns first and say, but this, but that, we're doing this, we're doing that. And it really is, in the words of one very senior former intelligence official in Afghanistan said to me, it's the grand deception of Pakistan.
We'll be continuing to follow that. Lara Logan, I appreciate you coming in, your expertise this morning, Lara. Thanks.